वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो रुद्रश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नः ताक्षो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste and a hearty welcome to one and all for today's 16th session of Mandukya Upanishad Karika's study. Having concluded the study of Vaitatya Prakaranam with the previous session, today we are commencing the study of Advaita, the profound Advaita Prakaranam Karikas with the shlokas 1 to 5. These Karikas shall be explained by Sri Amitabh Saharai, Dr. Chandrakala, Srimati Rama Gopal Krishna, and Dr. Satyanarayana Lale. Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir shall moderate today's session. He will also give us an introduction and insights into the day's topics to help us better understand these Karikas. Let us begin the day's session with a recap of Vaitatya Prakaranam Karikas 34 to 37 of our previous session by Dr. Rekha Kumar. Over to Dr. Rekha for the recap.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. We completed chapter 2, Vaitatya Prakaranam, Prapancha Mithyatvam or Prapanchopasanam, with the last 5 verses in the last class. Gaudapadacharya used the dream world Mithya to help understand the Mithyatvam of the waking world. We covered verses 34 to 38. Next slide, please. Verse 34 is a profound verse which dealt with how we understand Mithya, because the world is Mithya. 3 ways are suggested. Mithya is like the dream world, which is neither existent because it disappears on waking. It is also not non-existence because we experience it during dreaming. So it is a conditional reality, sad asad vilakshanam. Mithya can be compared to anatma, which is neither similar nor different from atma, like the rope snake, which is neither identical with the rope nor different from the rope, which is bhinnatva, abhinnatva, vilakshanam. Mithya is also the difference which is experienced but can't be proved by any pramanam, like the difference between the different objects in the world, different colors, between the pot and clay, etc. So in short, the whole world is a mystery. And any questions we ask are like riddles which have no answer. Hence, Maya is used. So knowing that the adhishtanam for this mysterious world is either Turiya Atma, one should enjoy the world as it is. Next slide, please. Verse 35 is the first verse of the last section of chapter 2 that dealt with sadhana and phalam. So in verse 35, the first sadhana described is karma yoga, which is for the preparation or purification of the mind. Samsara is experienced in 4 stages. Because of our limitation, we feel helplessness, which leads to anger, leads to frustration and depression. So karma yoga, which is Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha, it helps one to get out of these tendencies by accepting the results of action as Ishvara Prasada, which will give equanimity of the mind. Next is Upasana Yoga, Muni Vihi, which gives one-pointedness and expansion of the mind. By Vishvarupa Upasana, by seeing everything around us as sacred, a person does not resist or hate anything and the mind becomes refined. Next slide, please. So verse 36 deals with Gnana Yoga. So having received the knowledge convincingly, the knowledge has to be internalized. And the format should be changed from the triangular Jiva Jagat Ishvara to the binary Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. The knowledge that Turiyam is not an object outside or inside me, but it is me. And this is done by recollecting the teaching regularly, Samadhi, Abhyasa, Rupa, Nididhyasanam, and then completely and spontaneously being in the binary format, at least within oneself. Brahma, Abhyasa, Rupa, Nididhyasanam is remembering the teaching even while transacting in the world. And we are told we need not tell or discuss this outside. We should not be ostentatious about it. And we should actually appear like Jada. But internally, our conviction must be, I'm ever liberated. Moksha is not a goal or an event that will take place. It is my own real nature. This is Atmanishta, Brahmanishta, Sthita Prajna. This is total internal transformation. Next slide, please. In verse 37, the Shastras say that if the householder finds life too busy for Nididhyasanam, there is an option in the form of a sannyasi's lifestyle, where a person has no responsibilities and no rights. Such a person will devote his life entirely to Nididhyasanam. This is Vidyat Sannyasa. And he needs to only assimilate because he already has the Jnanam. After Diksha, and he will even fast if he doesn't get food, he does the Nididhyasanam, treating his body as his house when he eats, and the Atma as his other house when he does Nididhyasanam. So basically, he practices simple living and high thinking. He accepts whatever happens in his life, considering them as a means of prarabdha, karma, exhaustion of the body. So in short, whatever the lifestyle, householder or sannyasi, one must find the time for Nididhyasanam. Next slide, please. So this is verse 38, the last Karika in this chapter, where we learned that Nididhyasanam is being aware of the changeless Atma outside as the consciousness principle Chit through every changing thought, which is inside. Outside is Sat, as the changing Nama Rupa, the changeless principle, the existence principle. So one should never forget this, and this alone is called Tattvam or reality. Claiming that Tattvam is oneself, a person should not objectify it. Learning to relax in this knowledge, we dilute the stress of life by abiding in our own higher nature. If we slip or forget the teaching, samsara will eat us up. It will swallow us. So we must make sure we do not slip. Next slide. So just to recap briefly once again, Mandukya Karika will work only when one has gone through the stages of sadhana. Karma Yoga, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodhi. Upasana Yoga, Munibihi, Shravanam and Mananam, which is consistent in systematic study. Mandukya Upanishad is Shravanam, Mandukya Karika is Mananam. And the knowledge is I am the Turiyam Atma. At this stage, even if one does not want the knowledge, one will understand or gain the knowledge. But understanding is like adding sugar to milk without mixing in. So though we attain the knowledge, we have to practice Nididhyasanam and internalize it. Next slide. So if a person goes through all the 5 stages, Swami Paramarthananda ji tells us, we will be soaked in reality with eyes open or eyes closed, and we will not miss the Advaita Satyam. The Satchit Atma is not lost sight of. It's like remembering the screen when watching a movie. The moment we forget the screen, especially a horror movie, becomes a real problem. So this abidance in Advaita Atma is Jivan Mukti. Therefore, one must follow the sadhana and assimilate the Vaitatya Prakaranam that I, the Turiyam Atma, alone am the Satyam. I am the PSC, the projector, sustainer, and experiencer of the waking and dream worlds. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rekha. That was a very brilliant, simple summary of the very difficult Karika verses that we studied. So those who have studied will find your explanation very easy to understand. And you also gave us an overview of the entire Vaitatya Prakaranam. Sada Shiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. We begin the 3rd chapter of the Mandukya Karika, titled Advaita Prakaranam. In the Mandukya Upanishad, the most important mantra is the 7th mantra, which defines the Turiya Atma. And in that mantra, there are a series of words. Ekatma Pratya Saram Prapancho Pashamam Shantam Shivam Advaitam. So the third chapter is a commentary on the word Advaita. Swami Paramarthananda ji says that this is the most important chapter of the Mandukya Karikas, and perhaps the most important chapter of all Vedanta. In order to make full use of the study of the Advaita Prakaranam, he says you have to regularly revise the first chapter, particularly the first 7 mantras and Karikas 10 to 18. This chapter is titled Advaita Prakaranam. What is the meaning of the word Advaita? I have spoken about this before. Dvaita means two. Advaita means not two. That means I see multiplicity, but in spite of multiplicity, in spite of things being more than one, am I able to see the one in the many? For example, the singer and the song. We cannot separate the dancer from the dance. So too, we see a beautiful creation. But can I see the creation in and through the whole of, can I see the creator in and through the whole of creation? Which means I do see differences. I see differences within my own body. This differences within my body is called Swagata Veda. And then we have differences within the same species, Sajatiya. Then we have among different species, Vijatiya. But how do we reconcile to it? We have other scriptural texts which can help us. The Ishavasya Upanishad begins in a very powerful way. The mantra goes like this. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat. The whole world that we see and experience is pervaded. My sarvam idam protam sutre manigana eva. In an invisible manner, Isha or the Lord pervades the entire creation. We say Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi. So too, in everything that we see and experience, including my whole body, can I see Brahman or can I see Isha? So what is the meaning or the significance of the word Advaitam? Advaitam means without a second. Again, how can we say there are no two when I experience multiplicity? So in the last chapter, we learned about Vaitatya. Even though I experience everything, can I take it as mithya and therefore I cannot take it as real as the reality that I am? So Advaita means there is only one reality from a paramarthic perspective, and from a paramarthic perspective, there is no second paramarthic reality. The infinite can be only one. From a practical purposes, we have this experience. Sometimes my own tongue is bitten by my own teeth. There is a duality of someone who has been hurt and someone who is hurting. Even though my tongue is badly hurt by the biting of my teeth, I will not get angry or upset or punish my teeth. Why? Because I identify and I know that the teeth is not apart from me. So too in our relationship. If you have a difficult person in your life who's constantly hurting you and who has caused you a lot of upset. Now this is Advaita, difficult to believe, but it is true. Although this person is a source of a lot of pain in my life and a lot of difficulty, the more I understand Advaita Prakaranam, I'm able to see differences. I'm able to see someone who's hurting and someone who's hurt. But now my perspective has become so big that I have included the other. There is no sense of otherness. And therefore, this is one significant understanding of Advaita. However, Gaudapadacharya, throughout this Prakaranam, is going to extract and expound a totally different significance for the word Advaita. Now, this is important to gather. As I said, the first part, that there is no other. Like Bhagavan Ramana asked how to treat others, he simply said, and we know in his vision, there are no others. So there are no others. Now, that is one understanding of Advaita. What is that Gaudapada Acharya wants to, and you will, if please be sensitive to this. Now, Eka Karanam Anekam Bhavati. That means from one cause, many effects come. Normally, a cause is one, it becomes many. For example, a seed. A seed produces a tree produces a number of seeds, and from those number of seeds, a number of trees can come. That means one can become many, either through multiplication or through division. Now we are talking about the one, the Advaitam Brahman, also called Turiyam. Now, can this Turiyam become many? That is the whole question that we are going to address. Now, what is the third pada of Atma? The third pada of Atma we have in the mantra 6, Yesha Sarveshwara, Yesha Sarvagnya, Yeshontaryami, Yesha Yoni Sarvasya. So this is the womb of everything. So the third pada or Ishvara is the source of the entire creation. Just like from Ishvara, the whole world has come into being, can Turiya become multiple by either multiplication or division? This is what Gaudapada Acharya wants to refute. And that is why, if there is something that we have to pick up in the Advaita Prakaranam, which is unique in all Vedanta, is what is called Ajativada. Gaudapada Acharya very forcibly says, Turiyam can never become two, Turiyam can never become many. Why? Turiyam is Karya Karana Vilakshana. The first two padas are Karya padas. The third pada or Ishvara is Karana pada. And what about Turiyam? Turiyam is Karya Karana Vilakshana. Now, there is a lot of opposition to Ajativada from other schools of Vedanta and from all of us. Why? We experience a world. Now, this world, if it has not come out from Brahman, from where has it come out? Now, if you block one door, that means nothing comes out of Brahman, then others will say it comes from other areas. So you have the Sankhya and the Vaisheshika, Nyaya Vaisheshika, expounding their own philosophies, saying from where this whole world could have come out from. What is Gaudapada Acharya's task? Gaudapada Acharya's task is to help us to understand that the world has never come out of Turiyam. Then what has it come out from? He emphasizes again the same thing, that it has never come out at all. We concluded the Vaitatya Prakaranam in the 32nd Karika with a very powerful Karika which we all should remember. Na nirodho na chotpatti na baddha na cha sadhaka na mumukshur na vai mukta ittesha paramartada. From a paramarthika angle, there is no creation, there is no destruction, there is no seeker, there is no sought, there is no person who is bound, there is no person who is free. But then you have a problem, and how do we answer? The answer comes from Maya. Maya is neither Sat nor Asat. So it has never really come out. So there is a mysterious entity called Maya, and because nothing can come out from Turiya, because nothing can come out of Brahman, we have to bring in the concept of Maya, from which the whole world has come out. Just like through Nidra Shakti, the whole dream world comes out. Similarly, through Maya Shakti, the whole world comes into being. So there is one thing that we have to understand throughout the Advaita Prakaranam, is to understand what is Ajativada. The second one is called Asparsha Yoga. Gaudapadacharya tries to give us Brahma Vidya. And once you get Brahma Vidya, you understand what this Turiyam is. And once you understand I am Turiyam, that means I am not going to be affected by anything that happens in the world. And that is what is called Vedantic untouchability, the yoga of untouchability. That means I'm joining to a state where nothing is going to affect me because I am the only reality. Everything else is of a lower order of reality, and the lower order of reality cannot affect the higher order. And this is the essence of Advaita Prakaranam. I have told the story before of a person who was in a very upper end mall, and there he saw a board called the Truth Shop. And he was very inquisitive to find out what do they sell here. And as he entered there, the sales girl comes and tells him, "Sir, what are you looking for?" He says, "I'm looking for the truth." And she asks him, "What percentage of truth you're looking for?" And the man says, "Truth is 100%. If you have 100%, that is it for me." She says, "Very well, sir." And she takes him into the store. And the moment he sees the price tag, he starts walking towards the door. Which means when you enter into the world of scriptures, you will see there are various gradations of truth. Initially, the teachers cannot give the ultimate truth because whenever the ultimate truth is given, the price tag seems so high that the student is going to refuse. So the teacher will compromise by giving a lower percentage of truth, which is going to be in the process of adhyaropa. And later on, when the student is ready, the apavada starts. And then finally, when we come to Mandukya and in the Advaita Prakaranam, and this is how, just like the 32nd Karika of Vaitatya Prakaranam, we have the 48th Karika in the Advaita Prakaranam. Na kaschid jayate jivaha. Gaudapadacharya very emphatically says, nothing is ever born from Brahman. Na kaschid jayate jiva. No jiva is ever born. Sambhav asya na vidyate. Because there is no source, there is no cause for his birth. And he declares in bold letters, Yetat uttamam satyam. This is the highest truth. Yatra kinchit na jayate, from which nothing ever is born. And this is what is called the Advaita Prakaranam. The opening Karika will be explained to us by Sri Amitabha Saharoy. Amitabha, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We'll start with the first verse of the third chapter. Upasana Svito Dharmo Jate Brahmani Vartate Ragutpate Rajam Sarvam Tena Saukrina Smrita. So this is the first verse of the third chapter. Sri Gaudapada emphasizes the importance of this chapter as it deals with Advaita Jnanam. Any type of Dvaitam is the cause of samsara. There are two types of Dvaitam. One is called secular Dvaitam and the other is called sacred Dvaitam. Secular Dvaitam consists of I and the observed world. Veda Purva section deals with Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, in which I, the Jivatma, is the worshipper of the Lord, the Paramatma. This worshipper-worshipped Dvaitam is called the sacred Dvaitam. Even though the sacred Dvaitam is considered very auspicious, the sacred Dvaitam will eventually lead to samsara only. And this can be very disturbing news. Next slide, sir. So if the sacred Dvaitam leads to samsara, why should Veda introduce this Dvaitam at all? This Dvaitam at all? The reason is that this Dvaitam Bhakti is a stepping stone for Advaita Jnanam. Dvaita Bhakti is a temporary solution, but Advaita Jnanam is a permanent solution. One engages in Dvaita Bhakti initially, but soon realizes the limitations of that Bhakti and then moves to Advaita Jnanam. One who is a Dvaita Bhakta and uses it as a stepping stone to move to Advaita Jnanam is a discriminating person. But a Dvaita Bhakta who permanently resides in Dvaita Bhakta is indeed unfortunate. And without Dvaita Bhakti, Advaita Jnanam is impossible. And without Advaita Jnanam, Dvaita Bhakti is incomplete. Dvaita Bhakti is not an end in itself, and to permanently remain in Dvaita Bhakti is not the recommended approach. Next slide, sir. Now, we come to the cause and effect relationship between Paramatma and Jivatma. Often, we are under the impression that Paramatma is the cause of Jivatma. But Sri Gaudapada firmly rejects this idea of Paramatma Jivatma cause-effect relationship. Creator-created relationship is not there because there is no Paramatma Jivatma duality. Advaita Atma alone exists. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Amitabh, for a nice explanation of the opening Karika. Gaudapadacharya comes down very heavily on Dvaita. We should understand the Dvaitam that he is opposing is not the Dvaita of Ramanujacharya or the Madhvacharya, because none of these teachers were there at that time. So it refers to Sankhya, Yoga, Vaisheshika, and so on. Now, this Upasana Ashrito Dharma Jate Brahmani Vartate Prak Utpatte Ajam Sarvam Pena Asau Krupana Smritaha. He uses a very strong word called Kripanaha. Kripanaha means a person who is miserly or miserable. Why does he come so strong? Of course, explained by Amitabha, that there are Upasana is okay. Initially, we have to move. Don't remain from sakama, that means to fulfill your desires. Move to nishkama. And when you move to nishkama, then you develop a level of bhakti from eka rupa, aneka rupa to arupa. The word kripana comes in the Bhagavad Gita twice in the second chapter. And the word kripana again will be brought out by Adi Shankara towards the end of this chapter. I think it will be in Karika 38, where there is a reference to Yajnavalika telling Gargi, this is in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, see, if you are a human being, the glory of human birth is to be able to realize Advaita Brahman. And if in this life you have not been able to attain to that, you are a kripanaha, you are a miserable entity. The second Karika will be explained by Dr. Chandrakala. Dr. Chandrakala, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Coming to the verse 3.2. Ato vakshamya karpanyam ajati samatam gatam yata na jayate kinchit jayamanam samantataha. Come to the meaning of this verse. Ataha, thereafter. After what? After upasaka, that is worshipper, living in a pitiable unworthy plight, that is in samsara, that means separating himself from Atman, not understood that he himself is a pure consciousness without Atmagnana. Ataha vakshami karpanyam. Gaudapadacharya says, after understanding that Brahman as oneself, without limitation, Upasaka, hopefully freed from pitiable servitude to misery and limitedness, that is samsara. Ajati Samatam Gatam, here Brahman has been introduced briefly in line 2 of this verse. Brahman is called unborn. So unborn, beginningless, endless, eternal, beyond limits of time. Why do we say unborn? Because he is ultimate supporter of everything. He has independent existence. That is about Brahman. What about creation? Yatana jayate kinchitaha. Is it not something born from Brahman? It appears to us so. Scriptures sometimes say all this arose from him. From Brahman's own point of view, he does not create anything. Jayamanam samantataha. In previous chapter, we learned that we find the endless forms created in world are unreal. They are not really there, but appears to be there. Coming to the explanation of this verse, we have learned the difference between Dvaitam and Advaitam. Acharya says in Dvaita Bhaktam, Ishvara, that is Paramatma, is the creator and I am created, that is Jivatma. If one remains in Dvaita, he faces samsara. Acharya says, between Jivatma and Paramatma, no cause-effect relation. In Advaita, we believe Brahman is non-dual. No cause-effect, does not create anything, does not multiply, free from modification. Brahman is not a cause. Next slide, sir. Brahman is not a cause. And the world is not being created. No such thing as world, even though world seems to be existent. So, entire creation is an appearance in the mind. This has been well understood by Adhyaropa Apavada process. In earlier Upanishad, we have learned that Brahman is the cause and world is the effect. That is Adhyaropa, that is false attribution. In Mandukya Karika, Gaudapadacharya says, we are withdrawing the teaching and say, Brahman is not a cause and world is not an effect. That is Apavada, that is subsequent retraction. In this process, Brahman is being revealed. Example, gold gives existence to ornament, that is bangle, chain, ring, etc. Wood gives existence to furniture. Similarly, Brahman lends existence to world, that is effect. World does not have independent existence of its own. God borrowed existence from Brahman, I. I lend existence to world. Once the idea is understood, one should not retain the word cause as this undergo change. Once we understand no separate ornament other than gold, we say only gold, no more ornament. Similarly, in case of Brahman, intelligent and material causes are introduced temporarily. If I say Brahman is the creator, the word creator should not be taken literally. Only extract the central message that it lends existence to the world without any change whatsoever. So I'm going to say an important point here to remember. Gaudapadacharya says, negate the existence of the world, but not the experience of the world. Experiences will continue, but you will never assign existence to the world. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandrakala, for a very nice explanation of an important Karika. And this Karika is something that all of us have to remember. Atha. Atha means thereafter. Thereafter means after understanding the first Karika, where he talks about the limitations of a Dvaita Bhakta who believes in, who does not move from Dvaita to Advaita. He says, there he used a very strong word called Karpanyam. Now he will use, I will teach you about Akarpanyam. Akarpanyam means that which is limitless, that which is ajati, that which is never born, and that which is samata gatam. Gatam means it has attained to a state of uniformity, which does not have any parts, which does not undergo any change. Now, this is the definition of the infinite. Yata na jayate kinchit, from which nothing is born, even though you will see so many things are born from it. So therefore, there is a certain promise that he's making and an important Karika where he says, I will teach you about this Ajati Vada. I'm going to give you Brahma Jnanam. This Brahman which is beyond Karya and Karanam. Yatana Kinchit Jayate. from which nothing is born, even though Jayamanam Samantata, although from which many things seem to be born. Our next speaker is going to be Ramaji, Rama Gopalakrishna, two important Karikas.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Harihi Om. Mandukya Karikas 3.3 and 3.4. The seventh mantra of the Agama Prakaranam describes Turiyam as Ajaha and Advaitam. Gaudapadacharya explains the word Advaitam and he establishes that Brahman is Karyakarana Vilakshanaha. The experienced world seemingly arose from Brahman. Brahman is Ajaha, eternal, not subject to change. Ajativada is the fundamental doctrine of Gaudapadacharya. His perspective is based on the Karikas of Mandukya Upanishad, applying the philosophical concept of Ajata to the inquiry of Brahman. In the third chapter, Supreme Brahman is discovered as Ajaha and Advaitam. Brahman has an independent existence and lends existence to support everything. In the next slide, we see Pratigna Vakyam. In the second Karika, Gaudapadacharya promises that Akarpanyam Ajati Samatam Gatam Brahma Vakshyami. Here Akarpanyam is asamsari or infinite, Ajatihi is non-causal, and Samatam Gatam is not subject to change. The term Sama means that reality which is homogeneous and all pervasive. There is nothing similar or dissimilar or any distinction within. He wants to prove that Brahman is eternal because it is Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata, Bheda Rahitaha. Shruti Vakyas like Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya proclaim that Brahman alone is the ultimate reality. A non-existent but experiential world is called Mithya, like a dream world projected in the mind. The scriptures also sometimes describe that this universe arose from Brahman. But the Mandukya Karikas logically prove that Brahman is not the cause and the world seemingly originates from Brahman. There is no cause-effect relationship between them. The next slide, you see Adhyaropa Apavadaha. It is a systematic process of deliberate superimposition of attributes termed as Adhyaropaha, followed by their retraction, Apavadaha. In the process, Brahman is revealed. Brahman is introduced as the cause, and later the idea of causation is negated. In the cause-effect prakriya, the Brahman lends existence to the apparent world. It is exactly like a person asking for water. A cup is introduced to contain the water. After drinking the water, the cup is withdrawn. The introduction of the cup is Adhyaropaha, and its withdrawal later is Apavadaha. The appearance of endless forms mentioned in the second Karika is supported with space simile. In Vedanta, the analogy of Mahakasha and Ghatakasha is popularly used to grasp the connection between Brahman and the apparent jivas arising from it. Parabrahma is compared to Mahakasha and Jivatma to Ghatakasha. In the third Karika, Gaudapadacharya negates the creation of jivas using part space simile. Both Paramatma and space have common features. Both are subtle, partless, all-pervading, and capacity to accommodate everything and uncontamination. Paramatma seemingly have taken the name from the and function of Jivatma. Now let us see the part space analogy. A potter creates pots and they have names, forms, and are used for different transactions. He creates only the pots and the pot space seemingly originate available for transactions. Now we have space outside the pot, which is called Mahakashaha, the great space, and the Ghatakashaha, the pot space enclosed in the pot. Thus, the all-pervading space seemingly divide into pluralistic spaces like Mathakashaha, the space inside a building, or Ghatakashaha, the part space. Both Mahakasha and Ghatakasha are one and the same. Each part space seems to have a date of birth and death. When the parts are broken, the part space seemingly merge into the great space. In and all through these phenomena, the great space itself is unaffected. With reference to the apparent creation of the world, space is the cause for the part. There is no Karya-Karana Sambandha between them. This analogy helps us to understand the creation. The implication of part space analogy is seen in the next slide. The same Paramatma is Jivatma like Mahakasha. Paramatma does not produce Jivatma. Just as many parts are produced, many bodies emerge out of Maya, but they seem to emerge from Brahman. Now the all-pervasive consciousness is available both inside and outside the bodies. It is only these bodies evolve and depart and not the consciousness. The first transaction in the enclosed consciousness is the self-awareness or feeling of I-ness. The enclosed consciousness with self-awareness is called Jivatma. They have their own identity like body, mind, etc. called Upadhis. The consciousness outside the body is called Paramatma, which seems to divide into Jivatmas. So Jivatma is not born in all three periods of time, and only the name Jivatma is used for the sake of transaction. Jivatma is born only with respect to the body, like part space with respect to the part. Taittiriya Upanishad mantra says that the experienced Dvaita Prapancha, starting from the space, is born from Atma. That is Atmanaha Sambhutaha Akashaha, etc. Panchabhutas and Purushaha, the Jiva with body made of food, are born from the Akasha. Just as parts are born out of space, all body-mind complexes seem to have born out of Paramatma only. The space is the cause of both part and the part space. Similarly, Paramatma is the cause of Jivatma and the body. Gaudapadacharya analyzes the part space simile to put forth Ajatavadaha from the fourth mantra onwards. With this background, let us try to understand the Karikas 3.3 and 3.4. Karika 3.3 says, Atma Akashavat Jivaihi Ghatakashairivoditaha Ghatadivaccha Sanghatair Jata Vetan Nidarshanam. And the translation says, Atman may be said to be similar to Akasha or space, manifested in the form of Jivas. It is compared to the space enclosed in parts. The Jivas are said to evolve from the Atman. This is the illustration of the seeming manifestation from Brahman. And the next Karika says, Ghatadishu pralineshu Ghatakashadayo yatha Akashe sampraliyante tadvad jiva shyatmani ihatmani. In the next slide, we see the translation of the fourth shloka, the fourth Karika. As on the destruction of the part, the space enclosed in the part merges in the great space. Similarly, the Jivas merge in the Atma. In the next slide, we can see the arrival and merger of Jivas. In the Karika 4, the part space simile is introduced to negate Srushti of Jiva logically. Once the parts are created, the part space seemingly splits. The space seemingly splits as the enclosed space and unenclosed space. So the total space is the cause of part and the part space. It means the space provides accommodation for the part. From the viewpoint of space, there is no creation or dissolution. Likewise, Jivatma and Paramatma both are one and the same. In the Karika 3, the space example refers to the arrival of Jivas. The Karika 4 talks about the seeming merger of jivas back into Paramatma. The temporary merger takes place during Sushupti, Maranam, Pralayam, unlike Videha Mukti. This merger is also seeming because the arrival itself is seeming. In the case of pot space, the Shankara Bhashyam says, Yatha ghatadi utpatya ghatakashadi utpattihi. Birth of the pot originates the pot space. Tatha, likewise, ghatadi pralayena ghatakashadi pralayaha. Here, pralaya means the nasha. When the pot is broken, the pot space seems to merge in the great space. In the next slide, we see consolidating Karikas 3 and 4. What is the inference? Tatvat, in the same way, Dehadi Sanghata Utpatya Jivotpattihi. Tat praliyena jivasya atmani pralayaha. The manifestation of the jivas follow the merging of jivas in the Supreme Self on the destruction of the aggregate of Sthula and Sukshma Shariras. Neither creation nor destruction is in itself real from the standpoint of the Absolute. Thank you. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much, Ramaji, for a very nice explanation of these two important Karikas. In these Karikas, Gaudapadacharya is giving a wonderful example of equating our true nature to that of space. Before we enter into this, I have to define a few terms. One term is called the Parinamavada. The Parinamavada means that which undergoes change. For example, milk can transform into curds. Now, it is irreversible. So too, Brahman, from Brahman, we say the creation is born. That means Brahman has undergone a certain transformation to the form of creation, and this is called Parinamavada. This Parinamavada is not accepted by the school of Advaita Vedanta. Instead, the school that we follow is what is called Vivartavada. Vivartavada means Brahman does not undergo any change. If at all any change, it is an apparent change. And the apparent change is of two types. For example, it is called the Pratibimbavada. Now, the sun can be reflected by any reflecting surface, any water body, and the reflection is actually the original modified by the kind of the reflecting medium, and therefore the original is still the original. This is called Pratibimbavada. The other we need to understand is called Avachedavada. Avachedavada means an apparent limitation. Really, there is no limitation. And the beautiful example that Gaudapadacharya has taken is the example of the pot space. The pot space seems to be limited by the walls of the pot. But remember, pot is so subtle that it can penetrate any wall altogether. And therefore, you will see the pot is within space, and the space within the pot can never be. The air in the spot is within the pot, the water or any other contents may be limited, but space can never be limited by the pot. And this is what is called Avachedavada. And with this understanding, now, if I am like the pot space, having a seeming limitation of my body-mind, which is the upadhi or the pot walls or my body, does the pot space have to break? Do I have to die to understand that I am Atma Brahma? Not at all. So the Ghatakasha and the Mahakasha are never really separate. It is only a seeming separation. So the Ghatakasha can be compared to the pot space of Jivatma, the Mahakasha, the total space. And this is an important understanding which will be going in and through the entire Advaita Prakarana. Now, when a person dies, it is like the pot walls have broken. Our understanding is to be able to attain to the total, the pot does not have to break. So when the pot breaks, what happens? Nothing happens, because the space has always been the same. The fifth Karika will be explained by Dr. Satyanarayana. Dr. Satyanarayana.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Verse 5 goes like this. Yathai kasmin ghata kashe rajodhyum adibhiryute na sarve samprayujyante tadvad jiva sukhadibhi. Verse meaning is, all jivas are not associated with pleasure. Just as all pot spaces are not associated with dust and smoke, when one pot space is associated with dust and smoke. Next slide. The Dravya, a substance Atman, has 9 special attributes. Buddhi, the intellect, Sukha, the happiness, Dukkha, the misery, Ichha, the desire, Dvesha, the aversion, Prayatna, the effort, Dharma, the merit, Adharma, demerit, and Samskara, the impression. If desire, etc., are inseparably connected to Atman, then desire, misery, happiness, etc. of one being would imply those of another. Gaudapada is analyzing the word Advaitam while defining Turiya Atma. Advaitam is one which cannot multiply into many things and so remains one. If Brahman is always one, a creation can never be born out of Brahman. If at all we experience the arrival of universe, it is the experience of only an appearance. It is not factual. So Gaudapada says that our experience is not wrong, but the conclusion based on the experience alone is wrong. The experience of sun going around the earth can never be questioned because we experience the sun rising, moving across the sky and setting. This experience is not questioned, but the conclusion based on the experience is revised with the knowledge that the earth rotates on its own axis. Even after the conclusion is revised, the experience continues. Similarly, we experience the world like birth and death of living beings. The sentient beings are Jivatma and the inert universe is Prapancha. Gaudapada challenges the conclusion that we make from this experience that Jivatma and the world are born out of Brahman. Gaudapada negates the creation of the Jiva using logic through example of a space. Space is only one. It cannot multiply into many or divide itself into many. But we experience the seeming multiplication of space. When several enclosures are made, the all-pervading space is available in every enclosure. Thus, we have seemingly several enclosed spaces. The seemingly many spaces have different names, forms, and functions. Each space seems to have date of birth and date of death. We experience all these, but the experience does not warrant our conclusion that these happenings are factual. In and through all these phenomenon, nothing has happened to the space itself. When one enclosed space is contaminated by dust and smoke, other enclosed spaces are not contaminated. This makes us count space as many. This is our experience, but the fact is that space is not many, not born, and not divided. In the same way, some jivas are endowed with happiness and some other jivas are unhappy, but that is only a seeming experience. Even though space may be foul smelling, but that smell in the air is contained in the space and the space is not contaminated by it. When the sorrow is in the mind, it cannot contaminate all-pervading consciousness Atma. Gaudapada warns against coming to the conclusion that Atma is many. Now, coming to the comparison between the pot space and consciousness in the body, pot space is seemingly born, whereas consciousness in the body called Jiva is also seemingly born. Birth, death, movement, plurality belongs to the pot. Here, birth, death, and movement plurality all belongs to the body. Pot space has no birth and death. Similarly, consciousness also is eternal. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Satyanarayana, for a very nice and a very clear explanation of the distinction between pot space and total space, and about how we can compare the pot space to our true nature, the space. So the misconception that pot space is polluted, really because space can never be contaminated. There are other philosophers like Sankhya who will now come as Purva Paksha and say, now you believe that Atma is one. And they would try to say, if one jiva has got sorrow, then all the others should be affected. Now, our understanding is, in reality, even though the pot space may have smoke and dust, the air in the pot, the water in the pot, or the contents may be affected. The space in the pot is so subtle that even in that so-called affected space, where it is not affected at all. And this understanding we should have, and therefore space is asangoha. And this is what will later come as asparsha yoga. Thank you very much. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shiv, please.
Hearty thanks to our dear Dr. Timo Perigde sir, to all the speakers of the day for the enlightening presentations, and to the Vedantins who have joined us for today's session. We shall be back on Monday, 9th September 2024 with our 43rd session of GIFT, a series on Gita for inner freedom at 6:45 p.m. Let us conclude with the Shanti mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.